So, welcome to the first video in this cold calling series. And what I want to start with is lead generation, and we'll start with what are leads. So, for me, I call leads possibilities or possible opportunities. And the strength or the value of a lead varies hugely, as you will know, but much dependent on whether they are qualified or not. By qualified, what I mean is, are they hot leads, leads that fit into a profile that you were looking for, and they're ready to be converted? Now, you're the best person to know what you're looking for, so the best qualified leads will probably be those that you generate yourself. Now, even if you obtain leads from someone else or another department, you are still probably going to have to check that they do qualify. So hopefully this video will help you, because it focuses on how best to generate those qualified leads. Now, I'm going to take on board what I've sort of experienced in my many years of working with lots of salespeople, and I'm going to take the following main categories of lead generation. The first one obviously is cold calling. Then we've got social media, which is things like LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, all of those kinds of things. You've also got email campaigning, and you've got networking events. Now, unfortunately, networking events probably isn't relevant as much right in this current period in time, I know, but it will be at some point. Now, I'm sure there's other ways that you can generate leads, some really good innovative ways, and if you're thinking of one right now that I haven't said, then please put it on the Facebook group and we can have a chat about it. The other good thing is, any of these that we talk about, come onto the Facebook group with me, so I can help you tailor the content to fit what you do and make it work for you. So we're going to start with cold calling. Some of this will be a refresher for you if you've seen a lot of my videos before, but for some of you it might be new. But I just want to kind of go through 5 crucial habits for successful cold calling. The first one being, be prepared. Even if it's just a quick glance, do look at the prospect's website to make sure that you know what they do as a business, who they are, perhaps the size, the structure, the type of operation, and then just note it down. Now, you may already have this information from the last time that you looked them up, or perhaps you were handed the information from, I don't know, somebody or the person that gave you the data. In either case, just remember it and read it. So read it and remember it. Some people don't think that this is important to do at this such an early stage in the process, but please believe me when I say, you just never know. You just never know when you're going to need it. You just don't know when a gatekeeper or a decision maker might just come on and say to you, so what makes you think you can help me in my business? Or what do you know about my business? And these are questions that they can throw at you early on in a call. And if you're not prepared, then you're going to be thrown off. So be prepared. The other side of being prepared is just make sure you know what you're offering as well. Just do your homework on your offering, on your product, your service, whatever it is. You can't be prepared enough. I have put out a video on that as well. Now listen, preparation, summary. Prepare like you would if you're going on vacation. When you're going to go on vacation, if you're looking for a really great place to go, you look for all sorts of things. Where it is, the weather, the routes, the facilities, all these sorts of things you look for. And why do you look for them? Well, because you don't really want to waste your time, do you? In the end of the day, you don't want to waste your money, your time on a vacation that didn't work for you. So you do your preparation. And in the same way, you should really be prepared when you're going into a call. It's just as important. The thing is about being prepared, it's probably the single most important thing in selling, because you could be the greatest skilled person in selling, but if you haven't prepared on how to use those skills, then the likelihood is that you're not going to get the most out of that opportunity. So, if you haven't already, there is another video that I put out about preparation. It's called 5 Things to Do Before You Make a Successful Cold Call. That video might help you a little bit more with a little bit more information on preparation. So it just goes into detail about where to look on the websites, etc., and what exactly you should be looking for when you are preparing, looking at websites, social media, and all those sorts of things. Okay, that was number one, be prepared. The second one is be fresh. Now, fresh is an acronym that I learned many years ago and adopted into my working practices. I like it because it works for everyone. It's variable according to you as an individual. Each letter can mean whatever you want it to mean, but it should be a reflection of who you are. And the word fresh is a great way of saying different and exciting. Well, I think it is anyway. So keeping it fresh is about you being you, an individual, and not just another sales caller. Someone who is different from the last and the next caller. Someone who is easy to listen to. And someone who is not just there to bombard the listener with their own words. Now, I'm sure you'll have received sales calls yourself. And some of those calls may have been so typical in approach that you can actually smell the sell. I love receiving those sorts of calls, and seriously, as soon as they say the first few lines, I just know that this is a salesperson. But I've actually given names to 3 types of callers, so I've categorized them into 3 types. And to give you an idea of a typical approach that's not different, here's those 3 categories. So you got the first one, who I call the submissive caller. This is the one who puts the recipient into a superior position by being afraid to ask questions. Being polite is okay, but some callers tend to put their prospect on a pedestal and talk up to them, almost as if they're apologizing for doing their job. These are people that start things like with words such as sir, I'm sorry to disturb you, forgive me, and don't get me wrong, I mean, I've used forgive me, but what I do with that is I usually add a question at the end of it. So if you're going to use words like that because it's a cultural thing or because you feel that it's professional, polite, then that's fine. But just remember that if you're going to use that, attach a question to it, because what a question does then is it helps to refocus the call. It makes you sound like you're polite, but you've got a mission. And your questions will put the person straight back on track and back into a position which is not a superior position. Because if they get into a superior position, they'll talk down to you. Okay, so that's the kind of caller you want to avoid being is, one of them is the submissive. Second type I've identified is called the generous caller. Actually, this is the one that I dislike the most, mainly because the lines that they use are intrusive and sometimes quite personal. Lines such as, you have qualified for, or we are calling to help you regarding a recent accident you had, or we want to help fix your PC virus. Actually, sometimes combined with a bit of a threat as well to try and get you out of your comfort zone. An example would be like, your internet is at risk from viruses and we want to help prevent it. These are blatant lies or bluffs. I always want to call their bluff when I hear those, and they almost invite you to do so. But just think, if you were on the receiving end of one of those calls, I'm sure you too would want to tell them where to go. So instead of using lines like this, find a simple way to explain who you are, who you are, where you're calling, what you're calling about, and you'll earn more respect. I would rather listen to someone who said, we look for viruses and fix them if they exist, rather than we are calling because you have a virus in your PC. So be sincere in your approach. Again, this is part of being fresh, being individual, being you, not someone who starts off in such a way that you break the rapport or the trust before you even begin. Third type of caller I've identified is what I call the undercover caller. This one hides behind association words, and I'm sure you've seen this as well. By this I mean generally introduce themselves in association with big brands or household company names, just to put you in a false sense of security. And a great example of this is when Utility Comparison Outfit calls you, just to convince you that you need to change provider. But they usually start by emphasizing the name of the business you're already with. Now, I had it from a caller who said they're calling on behalf of EE, and actually, they weren't from EE at all. Those of you who don't know who EE is, it's a very big mobile network provider over here. Now, you need to be fresh, you need to be proud of where you're calling from, because if you're not proud, then you perhaps ought to question whether you should be doing what you're doing. Take ownership of making your brand or your company name sound as exciting as those that people like to associate with themselves with. Make it clear at the outset, otherwise you might find that you waste a lot of time with someone who has the wrong understanding of who you are. And at some point they will ask or realise and then just drop or end the call promptly. All that time you spent building a good rapport and influencing them will be lost because you will come across as a bit of a fraud in their eyes. Remember to make sure that you build a rapport and trust on that fresh foundation. Otherwise it might just crumble at any point. So guys, stay away from being those annoying typical types. Be fresh, be you. As I said, it's an acronym. You can use each of those letters to mean whatever you want it to mean, so long as it's you and it reflects who you are as an individual. There's a video, 5 things to do to build a better rapport with the gatekeeper. If you want to have a look at that video of mine, that's got a little bit more information on fresh. So you've got number 1, which is be prepared. Number 2 is keep it fresh. And number 3 is be a listener. Now, if you're the sort of salesperson that talks for more than 20 seconds when a prospect answers the call, then please stop right there. Just for a moment here, put yourself in the prospect's shoes and think about how often you retain everything that some random callers throw at you in the first few seconds. You know what? When you're not expecting a call and you don't know the person who is calling you, then those first few seconds can actually be a bit of a blur. And more so when the caller talks fast, like I'm doing now. You are wasting your time by throwing too much information across too early, not only because you don't know yet if the person on the other end is the best person to be throwing your pitch to, but also because you will sound a little desperate or even aggressive. You might recall something like that, or at least listening to somebody like that. Nobody likes to be talked at. I'll give you an example. I listened to a call actually very recently where a senior director sent me a copy of a call and said, listen to this and see what you make of it. Do you know, I was really shocked because the caller was talking to a decision maker and the call lasted about 15 minutes. Out of that whole 15 minutes, the prospect only had something like 32 words in total in that, what I would say was more a monologue than a dialogue. And 15 of those words were send me an email with all the information and I'll have a look at it. So 32 words the prospect got in a 15-minute call. That's crazy. And you know, the other thing that I remember from that call was the prospect did try to actually speak about 3 times. They did make a concerted effort, but after 3 failed attempts, they just gave in and started to give verbal nods. Now, if you hear a lot of verbal nods from the person on the other end, think about that. It could be a sign of you're not giving them chance to speak. So, you know, give them time to speak. You've got to give them time to think. You know, if you can give them more time, then you'll have more thinking time. That prospect was really polite, but some people would probably have hung up. And I'm sure you're thinking, well, that's not me. But then, have you really listened to yourself? And I know you're all open-minded enough to really take this on board and maybe, you know, just be aware. If you're getting lots of verbal nods, it could be that you're talking too much. You have too much valuable stuff to say, so only say it at the time when the prospect wants to know, because that's the most valuable time. All right, so be aware of that. So we've got be prepared, we've got keep it fresh, we've got keep listening, we've got number 4 is questioning. Now, I keep saying this, and I've always said, and I'll keep saying it again and again. You must have a list of questions that you know will help you to qualify the potential value to you of each opportunity. In other words, how much of your time is this prospect worth? Questions could be as simple as who have you used before, or as impactful as what do you look for in a supplier? Have questions ready to fire at the gatekeeper or the decision maker, because it also keeps you on the call for longer. giving you more opportunity to build a rapport with the prospect, gain a mutual respect, and it stops you from talking too much. Instead of talking, it gives you thinking time while you listen and take in what the other person is saying. If you switch your focus purely onto what they are saying, then you'll start to find that you automatically ask more questions. This is you being more engaged. They will then mirror, and there you have the start of a sale. Be prepared for silences, don't be afraid of them. Ask a question and then shut up for at least 3 seconds, not like the example I just talked about a minute ago. Actually be quiet. Being able to hold a silence after a question shows confidence and professionalism. It's a sign of good communication skills. It also says that you actually want to hear what they have to say. So remember, selling is not telling. Focus on questioning to understand, and the opportunity will become clear. So we've got number 1, be prepared. Number 2, keep it fresh. Number 3, listen. Number 4, question. And number 5, which is one I have said before again as well, is ditch the script. If you are working with a script, it's working for you, then I'm going to ask you to rethink this and at least just have a listen to one of your own calls. And listen to what I'm about to tell you now. I can tell you now that you will probably want to ditch it after you have listened to yourself using a script. Don't get me wrong, I think scripts are great, but for actors and presenters only. Why? Because actors and presenters are either delivering a monologue or a dialogue with a script, and where there is another person involved, i.e. in a dialogue, then the other person has the other half of the script. So the end result is a perfectly flowing conversation where both parties say exactly what the other person wants to hear, and hence a perfect outcome. Now, if you need a script to make a call, then I would suggest you go back to the drawing board and start to research your products and services and understand the value of what you're offering. If you believe that you already do or know all of this, then you really don't need a script. You see, the prospect does not have, like the actors, the other half of your script. So it is inevitable that you will have to go off the script, meaning you will leave yourself open to losing control of the conversation and the outcome. Remember, each opportunity is different from the last, so prepare for the unknown by simply having the relevant questions ready. A bit of research into them and an open pair of ears. I mean, really, when's the last time you needed a script to tell you how to communicate with another human being? You don't need a script. You just need to know what you're about. So there's those 5 tips. So you've got be prepared, be fresh, keep listening, question, ditch the script. Now, I know some of those are repeat for some of you. You may have already heard me talking about some of those things. I have added some information there that's in my book as well, so just expanded on them a little bit. But what I want to do is, on the next video, I'm going to talk to you about another way, which let's do social media in the next video. I'll talk to you more about how to use social media to help you generate leads. So stick with me through this series. Once we have done lead generation, I'm going to talk a little bit more in detail about how you get through the whole process, through every door in the sales process, and win those deals. All right. Remember, visit the Facebook group, share your thoughts on today's content. I would love to hear what you think about this video, and if you've got any ideas or questions on what you would like to hear more in some of the other videos, please share them. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for all your support, and I'll see you next time. Take care.